All right. So, question to start things off with. You're in living in a remote 1630s Puritan homestead. Besides it probably being boring, possibly. What would be your biggest fear? The isolation, the idea of witchcraft, or not having any Wi-Fi?
Honestly, like I'm down with the witchcraft. That's fine by me. The isolation, I think I'd be fine as long as I had the Wi-Fi. As long as I can check Instagram, I'm probably
We just gotta have the gram and the threads. Like for me, like I'm always like on threads. I can't stay off of that.
just checking it all day. So yeah, I think I'd be fine as long as I could do that.
Awesome. And hello, everybody. How you doing? It is I, the Terrorific Lady, otherwise known as Brandy, and welcome to Retro Horror School Talks, where I drag someone on here kicking and screaming to discuss retro horror. And my latest victim's name is Shane, also known as Your Fave Final Girl on Instagram, and she does something called Final Girl Reviews on YouTube. So welcome. So great to have you.
Thank you for having me. And I was a willing victim. I did not be dragged kicking and screaming. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, that's what I told her to say. So tell us a little bit more about your fave Final Girl on Instagram and Final Girl Reviews on YouTube.
Okay, so Final Girl Reviews is still kind of in its infancy. I really just got started a few months ago, but I do horror reviews, and I started a new series called Pillow Talks, where I talk about some of my favorite characters, not always horror. Sometimes things just stick with me, and I want to chat about it a little bit, and so I post that on Instagram too. But that's my YouTube. My Instagram is a little more personal. I post more about my life. I announce new movies that I'm reviewing, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. And I'm going to have to subscribe to you because I love me some horror and some horror reviews.
Oh,
So, yes. So I'm definitely looking forward to that and learning about horror because yeah, I love it.
I love it. I try to be thorough with my reviews, but I talk a lot and I have to cut a lot out. I usually focus on like character storylines. The characters are like integral to me, and I like to talk about theming a lot. So that's usually what you're gonna get when I'm doing my reviews.
And we're going to be talking about a movie today that you got super excited about whenever I gave you a list of movies to pick from. It is The Witch by Robert Eggers. And this movie came out recently, so I am definitely going to assume that this is not the first horror movie that you ever watched. So, what was?
I honestly don't remember my first horror movie. My I was not really restricted from watching horror when I was a kid. I watched a lot very young age, which is probably why I have such a love for it now. It took a lot of the scary out of it for me, and I was just able to enjoy it. The first movie, though, I really remember watching and being like, these movies are for me, was probably Poltergeist. I loved it so much. I love everything about that movie. I could watch it, if I'm scrolling and it's on the TV, I'll put it on. It just kind of spoke to me, I guess, and that's kind of where my journey started.
Like, yay for moms who let us watch horror movies and stuff when we were kids.
Yep, absolutely.
As I mentioned, today's pick is Robert Eggers' The Witch, which is his directorial debut. That is nuts. So he came right out of the gate swinging with this one. It was released in 2015, which is 10 years ago. I can't believe that. How fast time passes there. Um, it was at a time of resurgence in psychological and both supernatural horror, so that was starting to come back into the forefront. This movie has a little bit of a dash of also folk horror too. And okay, I have a fact here as to as to how much money it made. It made 40.4 million worldwide and was considered a financial success. So rightfully so. It's a dang good movie. I remember though seeing the trailer. It advertised it as something completely different. I don't know, like if you remember, like when the trailer first came out, did you get a chance to see it in theaters?
I don't remember seeing the trailer. I just remember
Oh,
hearing about it and putting it on. I did not see it in theater, unfortunately. That's something, if like a theater were to like show it again, I would absolutely go, because I wish I had seen it on the big screen. But yeah, I streamed it at home. I definitely set the mood though. I like to turn down the lights and get, my snacks and make it kind of a movie theater experience. And boy, it was an experience.
yeah, the trailer advertised it as something completely different, like it was going to be just outright just jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. And so when people went in to see it, they had expectations for one thing and got something completely different. So
Why did they do? I feel like that happens too frequently. Just advertise it as what it is, and people will see it. I remember that was a big thing with what was that movie? Jennifer's Body. The
mm-hmm.
like it was completely different, and so people were disappointed. And I don't understand why they do that. I think if somebody wants to see the movie, they're going to see the movie, and you don't have to like trick people into the seats.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I ask for trailers is don't just give me the entire movie. Please
Please
stop
give us,
that.
leave some mystery.
Blumhouse, I'm talking to you. They are the worst at that.
Blumhouse, but go down that rabbit hole today.
One thing I also though wanted to mention, just even in the trailer for The Witch, and we'll get a little bit more into the witch's like look and the cinematography and behind it and everything, but I thought that movie was so beautifully shot. I mean, it was gorgeous. Absolutely
Oh
gorgeous.
my, it's amazing. He's like a visionary with it, and I know he has a cinematographer. Unfortunately, I do not know their name from the movie, but it's visionary. Every shot is a photograph, a painting. Everything can be screenshotted and saved as a still. Like, it's so impressive, like how much thought and effort is put into like every single moment of his films, and especially The Witch.
Yes, absolutely. It was everything. And we'll also get a little bit more into this, everything down to the language used, the costumes, the buildings, just even, I think it was filmed up in Canada, if I'm remembering correctly, in a remote area of Canada, because he couldn't get the look that he wanted here, because we're cutting down all our forests. So
Yeah,
probably
I,
why.
I was kind of researching a little bit, and I think it was somewhere up in rural Canada where they filmed it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the right choice.
Definitely the right choice. So, as I mentioned before, The Witch is considered a lot of different things. It's psychological, it's supernatural, but I also like to call it a mix of a folk horror film and a historical horror, because with all of Edgar's films, and especially this one, he's very big on historical accuracy as much as possible. He even uses dialogue from the time period. I was very impressed with that.
What went we out into this wilderness to find? Leaving our country, kindred, our fathers' houses. We travailed a vast ocean. For what? For what?
We must ask thee to be silent.
What? Like, I was impressed with Prey when they used a Comanche dub. Watching it in Comanche dub, I feel, is the only way to go, because it lent to that film's authenticity, and the dialogue lent to The Witch's authenticity. Do you think that using period accurate dialogue, do you think it hurt The Witch, or do you think it helped The Witch?
I totally agree with you 100%. I thought it was amazing in Prey. I loved that movie. If you want to do another talk about Prey, sign me up. But back to The Witch. I thought it was the right choice. It really immersed us into that world. I know there were some kind of grumblings about it. People didn't really like having to like turn on subtitles or anything, but I honestly feel like if they spoke like modern day actors, it would have kind of taken me out of the whole vibe of it. I think it was the right choice and immersed us in it. Even if you had to replay it at home a couple times to like fully understand what they were saying, it was worth it.
Exactly. I agree with you there. If they were just talking the way that we talk now, going, "Hey, what's up? What's going on like here in the woods, like with this witch?" It would. I'd be like, "What the hell is going on?"
It wouldn't. Oh,
No, it would not fit at all. So I I didn't get to see it in theaters either, so I wasn't really all that sure about it. I saw it at home, so I got to turn on subtitles because I heard of the period accurate dialogue. Oh my god, it was amazing. I loved it since the first time I saw it.
oh yeah. I as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I'm gonna make this my whole personality. Like this is my favorite movie now, and that's just the way it is because
Yep.
it's good.
Yep. And I own it on DVD. So oh, had to show that off.
I hope they put out. Have they put out a steelbook yet? If they did, I would buy it.
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I didn't get steelbooks really. Like, what's the big deal about steelbooks until I bought myself a steelbook for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous. Like, that steelbook's absolutely gorgeous. And I was just like, now I have to be careful or I'm just going to only buy steelbooks.
It's hard to resist.
Yeah.
They make them so cool. There's always so many little extras in it. It's really hard to resist. So I'm gonna have to find out if there's a witch one because I might need it like right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, let's do like real quick. Does the witch have a steelbook? Yes, sometimes I pause like during this. We're gonna look this up. Actually, there is a steelbook of the witch.
I'm upset I don't have it.
Me too. Like now I am. Like now I need to like try and find it and get it, even though I already have it on DVD because it looks it looks really pretty. The Witch goes over a lot of different themes, and the themes in this movie are very varied. I caught the idea of breaking free from the restraints of oppression, mainly religious oppression, finding your own direction and independence from constraints placed upon you by society, and even the conflicts between human and nature. So, how do you feel like these different kinds of themes, or whatever themes I didn't mention, how do you feel that themes in general are explored in this movie?
I watching it maybe because I'm really kind of seasoned in folk and religious horror. I felt like the themes were pretty straightforward. I felt immediately as soon as you're in this like world with them, you know that her family are they're religious zealots, and pretty much every single thing that they do is some kind of gesture of their faith. And going from the scene where they're in like a courtroom and they're being banished for, I wish we knew why. That's something that kind of bothers me. They don't really go into detail about why they're being told to leave the community. But you know immediately that they're hardcore about this and everything is going to be religiously extreme. And that really sets you up for the suspense and the terror that you experience later.
Yeah, you mentioned something about you wish that you knew why the family was banished. And that's interesting because I whenever I watch it, I always kind of get that maybe they were banished because he was preaching the gospel. And I know that back then that you, unless you were a preacher or something, you were not allowed to even preach the word of God, because he said something along the lines of, why are we not here if it's not for the pure and faithful dispensation of the gospel? And they were like, shut up, go away.
Yeah, so maybe he was that guy who was trying to get everybody to kind of join him in his religious extremism, and they were just like, no thank you, you need to go.
Yeah, there's so many like different religions on top of religions on top of religions just breaking off and just all the different subsects. That could be like a whole like other conversation about that. It's crazy. But I don't know, maybe he should have shut up so that way they could have stayed on the plantation, because considering what happened, what happened after that, it's nuts.
And I know that later on in the film there's a scene where he's talking to God up in the sky. I guess he's like looking up and he's talking about how he wished he hadn't chosen his pride. And yeah. I really think his pride got the best of him and he thought he could hack it out there and he just could not. And look at what happened to his family.
Yep. And I have to mention also the character of Thomason, who's played by Anya Taylor Joy. I thought that she was fantastic. She was trying to decide between a Disney movie and The Witch, and she ended up choosing The Witch instead, which she said was a very good career move for her. I absolutely agree. I thought that the way that she portrayed this young girl who had all this crap going on all around her, and then like she's at the center of it all and like being accused of being a witch.
I love that. I didn't know that she was trying to choose between Disney and Robert Eggers. She really chose right, because look at where her career has gone since then.
Yes.
I feel like so many people get their start in horror, and I don't know, that adds to the genre. I think for me, and it's kind of special that so many people start there and then get so big. I think it's because we're just good fans and we follow people. You watch something and you love it and you love the actor and you just like stick with them. And I wonder if that's part of why so many people are so successful when they start out there.
Yeah, like I would stay in the horror genre. Like I love that. I love that genre.
Hmm?
Yeah. And I have to like I also have to think that see Thomason as a sort of um a very strong female character, just like she, with the way that she acts in the movie, the decisions she makes, and then especially also near the end. Do you see Thomason as a portrayal as like a strong female character in horror?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the themes that I talk a lot about in my reviews and in my pillow talks is how so often I feel like teenage girls are especially are kind of treated as like silly, or like what they like or enjoy isn't inherently like good or smart or intelligent, and it's something that really bothers me. And I feel like Thomason is such a perfect example of why that's wrong in like so many ways. She is like my favorite character in the good for her like character genre. What's her name from Midsommar? Like she everything she does in this movie is like it doesn't matter to her family. She's just treated as if she's inherently sinful because of who she is and her age. And you can't really blame her for making the choices that she makes later on, because look at how she's treated.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I remember the one part that really stuck out to me is when she was yelling at her dad and calling him a hypocrite. Basically, you're a hypocrite. You pretty much you threw me under the bus. You said I've done stuff whenever it was you that did it. You lied, like you're a liar. And he's just like,
Mm-hmm.
don't talk back to me, basically. It's like, what's the truth? You did. Like
Absolutely let her take the fall for everything that he was doing wrong, and it wasn't okay. And I feel like that's like a kind of part of growing up too, is like as a girl getting mad enough to like yell back at your dad. I remember those memories with my dad, and how you come out of that like phase is kind of shapes your relationship later. And he made all the wrong choices, obviously, considering what happens. But he made the wrong choice with that. He could have just been like, okay, I see that you're trying, and hey, maybe I should not have done that, I'm sorry. But instead he just like doubles down on her, and it's unfortunate.
it's like, hey, you're a witch. And she's like, no, I'm not, you jerk.
Because I'm calling you a liar doesn't mean I'm a witch.
Yeah, it just means that it reminds me of that one joke in Family Guy whenever it was a Puritan girl who said, I think the quadratic equation, and her teacher's like, a girl solved a math problem. Witch! It's just like,
That's so funny.
yeah.
That's
So witches, I've noticed, are a bit prevalent in folk horror, and there are a lot of other characteristics of folk horror. It deals with rural isolation, sometimes with pagan or pre-Christian elements. There's a narrative that has strong roots in superstition and myths and legends. Nature can be a source of terror. There's themes of sacrifice and morality, and there's a big theme also of ambiguity in some parts and tension being um, tension being dealt specifically through the environment of the film. So with The Witch, do you feel that it is a typical folk horror film, or do you feel that it subverts that subgenre in some aspects?
I do feel as far as folk horror goes, it's pretty straightforward, especially since he used like historical texts for the accusations and that kind of stuff. But one thing I noticed that I feel like does subvert the genre somewhat is that I think in a lot of folk horror, you have a character that kind of comes in and gives exposition or kind of explains things. It's kind of like when you watch, like, I don't know if the Wolfman is considered a folk horror, but the gypsy lady kind of comes in and says, "You're gonna die, like this is what's happening." You don't really get that in The Witch. You don't have somebody who pops in and they're like, "Hey, this is what's happening, you need to do that."
Get out.
That way it does subvert it a little bit, because you don't have that. He leaves it ambiguous. You don't get a lot of answers as to how things kind of work. You have to know some about folklore and like witch accusations that happened back in the day, like in Salem. Like you have to actually know something about it to understand even a little bit of what's happening, like especially with the opening scene where the baby is stolen. First, I love that he doesn't go over that line, with baby Samuel. But the thing that she's making is like a flying potion. She's using what she took from baby Samuel to make a flying potion. And if you don't read that kind of stuff, if you don't like research folklore like that, or like journals about witches and what they do, like you wouldn't have any clue that that's what she's making.
Yeah, I had to look that up myself after the movie. It's like, what the heck is all this? That I knew enough to, because I took courses in college that dealt with English literature and literature set during this time period. So I knew a lot just about the background of what they feared and how these were very real fears to them. So I knew enough about that. Like, would you say that this is the kind of movie, you mentioned that if people don't know a lot about the background, like of certain things, that they may come into this a little confused. Like, do you feel this is a movie where people need to very heavily research things, or do you think that maybe just a base level knowledge is enough?
I think I don't really think that you need to heavily research it. I mean, it's like in the small details, like the flying potion she makes, or some of the like little accusations, or they're small details that I think if you don't know or don't understand them while you're watching, it might make you want to research after. And that's one of my favorite things when I watch a movie, is I want to like research, like what happens or what something means. So I wouldn't say that you need like a base knowledge. I think you can go into it and just enjoy it for what it is, and then research later if you really want to.
So we talked a little bit earlier on about the atmosphere of the film. It's just very subtle, but the tension also likes to creep in and makes this whole situation and them being isolated out in the wilderness full of dread a very effective like technique that Robert Eggers used in this movie. What other kinds of techniques or scares or scenes really stick out in your mind as being effective?
So I think one of the things that he does is that he's patient. He doesn't, he really does take his time with it. He lets things build and build and build, which is kind of riffing off of what you said, but that's the number one thing that I really noticed about this movie. I don't, people call it a slow burn, but I feel like we get into the nitty gritty pretty early into the film, and he's just so patient with the way he lets things build up. And then when a scare does happen, he doesn't shy away. He comes in really close, so you can really see in detail like what's happening. And I think that's what makes it so effective. He lets that tension build up so patiently, so when it does happen, you're amazed by what you're seeing.
Yeah, and I also love his effective use of silence in some parts, because then when something happens right after that, bam, like I was legitimately shocked whenever for a little bit of backstory, he thought his kids were witches, Thomason, and then I think the two little twins, Jonas and Mercy. Caleb had died like by this time in the movie, but he boarded them all up in, I think, the goat pen. And then when he came out in the morning, the goat pen was broken. Only Thomason was left. Jonas and Mercy were gone. All the ghosts were dead. There's just this silence, and he's just like, "What the heck?" And then suddenly, boom! Black Phillip comes in and basically gores him to death. That God, it's like in a way I felt sorry for him, and another way I'm like, kind of
no. Sorry. I had no empathy for him because he was one of the characters that like seems like a kind of patient father and husband, but he's not really. There's a lot of ugliness down underneath that exterior. So man, when he got gored by Black Phillip, like it's so shocking, but you're also kind of like, oh, okay, here we go. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I kind of celebrated it because I knew he was going right for Thomason, and she was like my focus during the movie. You know, I was like, please don't hurt her, please.
And that probably would have ended up happening, considering like how angry he was at her before he locked her in that goat pen. So that's a good point. Yeah, the focus is just like entirely on her, and he's probably just gonna like head right for her. No, sir, she did not do this.
And you know, I got kind of weird vibes from the dad anyway, like when they're like sitting by the creek and he's like her like a small child. Like I felt like he had some weird stuff going on with her. So yeah, I wasn't empathetic at all. I was happy that Black Phillip rescued her.
Like there's a lot of weird stuff going on in that
family. It's really weird.
It's like,
and it's kind of crazy that we are watching a movie and we're rooting for the dad. Like we're rooting for him and his recruitment of this young girl. But I mean, that's like, they're awful. So
yeah,
good for her.
Yeah, if I had to choose between my family and Black Phillip, I would probably go with Black Phillip.
I mean, oh my gosh, after everything her family puts her through, she deserves that butter. She deserves that pretty dress. She deserves all of it because she's been through enough.
Yep. She deserves to see the world and, like I said, wear pretty dresses and have butter on bread and like just do all the things. She deserves to do all the things.
Deserves it. She was a diligent daughter and her mom was mean as hell to her. She deserves it.
Oh God, that mother.
Oh, she was so mean.
Yeah.
So mean.
I always felt there was a hint of jealousy.
Oh yeah.
From that mother. Like, you're jealous of your own daughter? Really? Really?
Well, yeah, and the way she talks about her when she's angry later on toward the climax of the film, she's talking about how she's turning her brother's eyes toward her in like a sinful way, like she's becoming a woman. And that kind of goes along with what I was saying about her being inherently sinful. She's just dressing the way that she's supposed to dress and just existing. And she's like, you slut. And it's horrible.
Jesus. It's just like,
and I think she does call her that.
Yeah, it's like, I think, yeah, proud slut. Just like, I was like, oh, what?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because even when they have their confrontation, she doesn't want to hurt her mom. She loves her mom.
No.
She's like begging her mother to love her, and her mom just does not quit. And it's so sad. I hate that. You know, no matter how difficult my relationship was with my mom, like I never felt like that with her. And I have a daughter and I can't ever imagine being so hateful to her. There's so much hate in her heart to like treat her daughter like that. I'm so happy for Thomason that she got away from all of it.
Yes, like, yes, good for you. Good for you, hon. that's what I had to tell her. Like, good for you. She'd be one that I want to hang out with. Like, you know, in the 1630s. She'd probably be my BFF.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You really do root for her the whole movie. And when she like lifts up at the end with all the other witches, I just wanted to like stand up and cheer. I was just like, yes, girl.
Ooh, yeah. The ending of that movie, I know that some people took it literally. It's just like, oh, there's all these witches floating up in the air. What? But I took it also metaphorically. It's just like because she lifts up in the air like all the witches do, and she's laughing, she's crying, and you could feel that there was just like this sense of relief, like this weight coming off her shoulders because she, I think, is lifted higher than all the other witches. And it's just like, that was just a beautiful way to end the movie.
Oh, absolutely. It was I think the whole movie was full of symbolism like that. But that scene specifically, I think you're so right that she's just, you can sense the relief, but there's so much freedom to it. She knows that it's like over and she can do whatever she wants now. I mean, she did not hesitate to say, like, I don't know how to sign my name. Tell me how to write my name in here so I can do this. She didn't hesitate. Naked, like, she didn't hesitate. She was like, finally free.
Black Phillip, that he talked about how like he's the one that helped her to sign her name and like ushered her into the life of being a witch slash free woman, and he has become a horror icon, which I did not expect. I see him in memes. I see him. I've seen him like on hand-drawn merchandise and t-shirts. I never expected a goat to become such a big horror icon. Just like, what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think that Black Phillip resonated just so much with so many people?
I think, first of all, goats are a pretty historic example of like the devil and witchcraft. I think it was a pretty common one. So I think part of why it became such a cultural phenomenon is because it was already prevalent in people's minds in conjunction with witchcraft, right? So I feel like it was a pretty easy thing to put in there to have people connect to. Also, he just looks really cool. I mean, he's like this enormous black goat. And I think one of the things that really pushed it over the edge was, I don't know if you watched a lot of behind the scenes on the movie, but Black, like the goat that they cast to play Black Phillip was an actual menace. Like, he terrorized the set. Everybody was scared of him. And after they filmed, they retired him. Like, he was impossible to work with. And I love that. First of all, I love that he was just like, I will not be told what to do. I'm going to run around and be scary, which is perfect for the role. But yeah, I think people just really like that idea of being so defiant, you know? So when you take the symbolism, you take how cool he looks, and then his defiance, and it was the perfect mixture, like lightning in a bottle for everybody to love Black Phillip.
It's Black Phillip's ornery.
Oh yeah, like they're in the scene where they're actually in like the goat barn or pen, when he's just like laying there. I wondered honestly, like, how did they get him to do that? Because he was crazy. Like, did they have to tranquilize him? Because he was just like so was he just like so crazy on set that they had to calm him down to even get him to do that? Because it's so funny to me that he was that crazy, and I'm amazed that they got a shot of him just like resting.
Yeah, me too. And I did know about goats being a symbol of witchcraft before I even saw this movie. So it's one of the many things that was associated with witchcraft. You mentioned Black Phillip and the idea of the goat as being a part of, which is pretty much a symbol of one of the many symbols of witchcraft, and one of the many things that people feared that back then whenever it was related to witchcraft. I know that jackrabbits were another one. There was a jackrabbit in the movie. They're just known as just kind of little imps, mischievous, like little demons. Those are two examples of how witchcraft and metaphors were used in the movie. But how else do you think that the witch reflects or reinterprets the historical fear of witchcraft and its roots in the Puritan culture?
I will mention that there is a crow or a raven.
Yes.
Another animal that they used to symbolize that, and that was, some of the like crow scenes were a little hard to watch. It's a little violent and surprising to have so much violence with just like a little bird, but that was hard to watch with the mother. But I think, well, I think honestly the usage of the animals, and then when you actually see any of the witches, I mean, she, like the first witch that you see when she's like making her stuff, she has this like mark on her like backside, kind of. It's like a dark, like kind of line, and I know that a symbol of like being like married to Lucifer or being a witch was having kind of black mark on your body. That was like where I think I might be getting my historical stuff wrong here, but I'm pretty sure any kind of like weird markings on bodies were considered like a teat for him to feed off of when it came to witches, which is weird and gross. But like some of the weird marks on the witches, I think were another historical thing that he put in there to add to the accuracy of it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all the period accurate things that Robert Eggers put in this movie, and the fear of the things that you mentioned, and just it just makes it real. It seems like very realistic, and are also kind of questioning. Do these things actually exist? Are they in their minds, or is this witch really like terrorizing this family? Is Satan really terrorizing this family in the form of Black Phillip? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, you really do wonder sometimes when you're watching it, like, are they becoming extremely paranoid because they're isolated, or is this really happening? And then you get little moments there you're like, oh, I think this is really happening. Like Caleb the apple, and the mother with the blood down her dress the morning after the crow incident. There's little bits and pieces that you see that you're like, okay, it is real. And I think that just speaks to how much he set up this world though for us, because I know that Eggers is such a stickler for historically accurate things. I'm pretty sure all of the clothing was handmade in a way they would have made back then. I think I saw an interview where he said the wood that was cut that they used for like the goat barn and stuff was actually cut in an historically accurate way. Like he went above and beyond, and not to mention the lighting. Sometimes there's total darkness, and the candlelight and the moonlight, and so it really does speak to how well he sets a mood, and how much it makes it that much more believable for us when we're watching it.
Yeah, I think he completely also reshaped the aesthetics of folk horror. I've seen some folk horrors, but I haven't really I haven't really seen anything like this. Do you think that Eggers has set a new gold standard for folk horror going forward?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he set a standard for filmmaking in general. I really do. Like he really, I think he pulled a lot from David Lynch, in that like he doesn't compromise on like his artistic vision, and he doesn't compromise on the way that he is going to set up his set and the way he's going to portray his characters. He's pretty unrelenting on that, and I think that's why he has been so successful. He has a vision, and he's going to see it through. And honestly, like, I can't think of another filmmaker that has set a standard like that. I mean, look at Nosferatu. Every film he does,
Yes.
the bar is raised every single time, and so I really do think he set a new standard for filmmaking, not just for horror, but for everything, because it's incredible.
Yeah. Side note for any Robert Eggers fans, he is going to be directing a werewolf movie set in 13th century England. So if you're a fan of Robert Eggers, it's supposed to be coming out next year on Christmas 2026. I know what I'm doing around that time.
I love it. Another Christmas movie.
Yes, like it's the perfect Christmas movie.
Oh, I'm here for spooky Christmas. Like, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, old England werewolves. You can't go wrong. And it makes me think of now thinking about a lot of Robert Eggers films, including this one. Some people say whenever I've looked up and researched for this movie, some people say that he's responsible for the rise of the term elevated horror. Some are happy about that. Some are like, ew about it. So, do you think that Robert Eggers contributed to this rise of what's called just this elevated, intelligent style of horror?
I do think he contributed to it a lot. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing though, and he's not the only one. I mean, look at movies like Hereditary. You
Yep.
know, if you talk, like Ari Aster, like he's not the only one making films like this, and I don't think it's a bad thing for the horror genre. I mean, there's space for all of it. There's space for like the kind of trashy 80s slashers. There's space for this like really dark and like thoughtful elevated horror and like everything in between. There's space for it all. I don't think it's a bad thing for the horror genre. I'm honestly really here for it.
Yeah, it's like no gatekeeping, people. There's plenty of horror for everybody.
To go around. There's no reason. I don't know. See, that's one of the things I love about the horror community, though, which is why I'm so focused on what I do with Final Girl reviews and stuff. Is because it is welcoming. There's space for everybody. The support is insane. I mean, I've made so many new friends since starting this like little journey, and it's like that's what we love about it. It's like we all love to watch these like bloody gory movies, and we all support each other, and so for there to be like infighting about stuff like that just aggravates me. Just stop. If you don't like it, it's fine. I mean, if you don't like Robert Eggers, you're entitled to your opinion, even if I think it's wrong.
Yeah, it's like we I always say, just like in this house we respect, like I say it a lot about John Carpenter, like in this house we respect John Carpenter, but in this house we respect Robert Eggers and what he lays down.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Okay, so I love when it comes to horror thinking about what ifs. So I'm going to give you a scenario and you're going to think about what you would do. And it's related to the witch. So here's the scenario: you and your family have been banished from your Puritan community, you've been kicked out for some reason. You were living on the edge of an untamed forest, and you've decided, I guess your family has decided to build this farm. Strange occurrences have been happening. Crops are rotting, your livestock's going nuts. One of your siblings have gone missing, and some of your other siblings are like, hey, we could talk to this goat, Black Phillip. And you're probably like, what the hell? But anyway, tensions are escalating among your family because all these accusations of witchcraft are beginning to fly. And there's not a lot of trust there. So how do you keep sane and ensure your survival? Do you investigate the forest and the surrounding areas, trying to figure out what the heck is going on? Do you try to escape back to the community that kicked you out, knowing they may shun you or potentially hurt you? Or do you stand your ground and be like, you know what, I'm going to figure out what the heck is going on here?
I mean, part of me really does want to just go into the forest and investigate, but I think I'm going to have to choose option 3. I feel like that's exactly what Thomason did, and that's probably the smartest choice for that kind of situation. You got to kind of stick it out and figure it out, because even if you run away, I mean, where are you going to go? There's no safe place really. So you just kind of have to like kind of put on your big girl panties and get to it, I guess.
Yeah, there's no GPS, there's no maps, so it's not like she even like knows how to get back to the plantation, the plantation, even if she wanted to.
Yeah, it's like an impossible scenario, so you might as well just kind of stick it out and figure it out as you go.
Good answer. I'd probably like do the dangerous route and go number 1 and go into the forest to try to figure out what's going on. But then that's me. It's just like my insatiable curiosity coming out in me there.
Oh, I understand. It's tempting. Yeah. It would be really tempting if you heard whisperings and stuff in the forest. How could you not want to investigate? But I think I would choose 3 still.
I would probably end up dead. So you probably will come out the better, like between the both of us in that scenario.
That's funny. I do say that I am kind of a survivor, so I guess my instincts are good in that situation.
There you go. I'll probably stick with you in a horror movie. Now we cut to the part called the retro lightning round. So I'm going to throw out some questions. Some may be related to the witch. Some may be related to just Robert Eggers in general. So I'm going to ask you a question. You're just going to say the first thing that pops up in your mind. If you were in the witch, what would be the first thing that you would do to prove that you're not a witch?
Oh my gosh, that's really hard. Because I mean, what can you do to prove that you're a witch? And also, I kind of like the idea of being a witch, so I'm not sure I would do a lot to fight that accusation.
Yeah, good answer, because the test to prove that you're a witch or witch or not kind of stunk. You like lost either way. Yeah.
There was no winning in the witch trials. You were either declared a witch and killed, or you were killed trying to prove that you weren't a witch. There was like no winning. So I would rather just stick with the accusation and try to have some fun with it, scare some local villagers if I can.
Yeah. So Black Phillip comes up to you and says, hey, I'm going to offer you this life of total deliciousness with butter and pretty dresses and seeing the world, but there's a catch. You have to live in the 1630s forever. Would you accept his offer?
Okay, I have a question. Am I starting in modern day and then going to the 1630s, or am I already in the 1630s?
I would probably say the nature of this question, you're in modern day and he comes up to you and is like giving you this choice.
Oh my gosh. So that's a very tough choice, because if I feel like if I was already in the 1630s, I would sign my name so fast, right? There's no question. But modern day, I really like modern conveniences. A lot of the things that he could offer in the 1630s are what we have readily available now. So if I'm starting out in the modern day, I would have to say no. But back in the day, sign me up.
I would agree with you there. If Robert Eggers was going to make a movie about your life, what historical time period would you want him to set the movie in?
Oh my gosh. That's a really hard one, because I feel like I could choose any historical time period, but if it was based on my life, it would have to be sort of modern, right? So I think the early 2000s, like Y2K area there, was probably the most wonderful and the most like dramatic time of my life. So it might be the perfect point to make a very weird and wonderful movie by Robert Eggers.
Yeah, I'd like to see how he handles Y2K.
It's such an aesthetic, like everything was so specific and stylized during that time. I think he would do it justice, but it's not exactly like a time period piece like The Witch would be.
If there was a sequel to The Witch, what do you think the plot would be?
Oh, well, Thomason is like the Witch of the Wood now. So can you imagine, like, maybe move forward 50, 100 years, and a new family or new community is in that like little clearing that they were living in? I'd love to see Thomason, as the Witch of the Wood, terrorizing some villagers. That would be pretty cool, actually.
That would be awesome. What character in the movie The Witch would you go out of your way to avoid?
Oh man, there's a lot.
Everybody.
Yeah, I think probably the mother. She's mean. She's so mean. And I hate that, because I usually try to like focus on and uplift female characters, but she's just horrible down to her core. So that would be number one, I think.
Yeah. Twins would be for me, because they're little liars and trying to like say that Thomason bewitched them. She's like, you jerks.
I mean, to be fair, they're small children, so they're gonna lie. And also, she did tell them that she was the Witch of the Wood, so you can't really blame them. Also, they're really cute when she's like riding the broom going clickety clackety, like adorable.
I be the Witch of the Wood. Clickety clackety. No.
So cute.
Yes, she was. It was. Yeah, if you were banished from your town, like in The Witch, and now times you were told to get out, what would be the one item that you sneak out with you?
Oh my! I don't go anywhere without my phone. I mean, I would take that. That's my first choice. I won't go anywhere without it.
Yeah. And I will, and I think the charger would also come included. So phone with charger.
Okay, perfect then.
Yeah.
With that one, everything else can stay. I mean, I do like my collectibles, but they can be replaced. My phone, I need.
Yep. Modern conveniences. They're awesome. If Black Phillip got his own spin-off movie, what do you think the title of it would be?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, because I mean, it could be just as simple as Black Phillip, because like, how do you even like what would the movie even be? Just him terrorizing everybody? Like, I don't even know what I would call that, because it would just be him being a menace the whole movie. I I honestly I have no idea. I don't know what I would call that.
Yeah. Black Phillip.
Yeah.
Phillip. I could just see like the announcer voice like in that trailer. That'd be funny. And now the last of the lightning round question. So you have the chance to ask Robert Eggers to pick any historical figure to make a movie about. Who would be your pick?
Oh my gosh, there's so many people I would want to see him make a movie about. But I do have one in mind that I think would be really good. I think he could do Joan of Arc. I think he would do it justice. He treats younger female characters with care and respect. Um, it's got some really, like, her story is full of like religious kind of extremism and visions. I think he could handle all of that really, really well.
That's
I'm on the phone right now and give me a credit for that, because I think that's a great idea.
yes, Robert Eggers, if you're listening.
Joan of Arc.
Yeah, because the only thing we've gotten about Joan of Arc was just like some made-for-TV movie that was made in like 1998.
No, like I think she deserves a good film, and I think he'd be the perfect choice.
Yeah, she's also in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but that's more of a comedy.
That movie, and she's so cute during her like exercising.
Little aerobic like programs like on her. She like teaches her army aerobics like on her return to France.
It's so cute. I love it.
All right, so we've come to like almost the end, or pretty much the end. It's just like I wish that we could talk like all night about The Witch, because it's night as we are recording this now. But thank you so much for coming on and talking The Witch.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I was so happy to do this. I love talking about The Witch, and I genuinely could do it all night also.
Why don't you tell people out there why they should see this movie, whether it's been a while since they've seen it or whether they're curious about it and want to watch it for the first time?
The Witch is a really special movie because it blends horror and folklore in a way that surprises you. It's like such a good character study and a filmmaking study. Even if witches aren't your jam, I think watching it just to study what Robert Eggers does in this movie is it makes it well worth your time to give it a watch. But I mean, I really just want to watch it again because I like witches and goats, and I think everybody in it was amazing. But there's a lot of other reasons to watch it too.
Yeah, witches and goats and awesome stuff going on.
Let's go.
Yeah. Now, before we officially wrap it up, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media? I know we mentioned a little bit about at the beginning, but let's remind people where they can find you on social media. And you could tell people just about what projects you may be working on or things that are coming down the pipeline for you.
Okay. On YouTube, I am Final Girl Reviews. I post my movie reviews there, and I also do little pillow talks where I talk about some of my favorite characters. And on Instagram is where you'll find a lot more than that. You'll find announcements about things. You'll find just little bits and pieces of like my life and horror and all that stuff. I am working on movie reactions right now, which is new for me. I usually only do reviews. So I would definitely keep an eye out for that if you want to watch me react dramatically to horror movies that I have never seen, and then talk a lot about them because I am a yapper. So that's coming soon. So if you want to find me at Your Final Girl on Instagram or Final Girl Reviews on YouTube, that's where you can find me.
And we will have the links to all of that down below. To everybody out there, thank you so much for watching this episode of Retro Horror School Talks. Like, subscribe, and share with other fellow horror fans. If you or anybody else likes having fun learning about horror, class is dismissed, everybody, and I will see you next time.